don't see me yet. There I am. Okay. All by myself. I did that. And I'm looking. Did you even put out a notification that we're doing live?
We always do it. It puts out a notification when you go live.
Okay, well that's it. We'll wrap up today, and thanks for joining us live on Friday Lives of Legend of Superstition Mountains. We'll catch you next week. The one person that joined in leaves. Would be funny. I'm so hilarious. Okay.
See? Someone said they got the notification.
Oh.
You see that?
Hello. Yes, I see. Well, I see two people. All right. Yeah. Just. We need like bumper music.
Bumper music?
Yeah, some music at the beginning while I'm sitting here instead of me just randomly talking to myself, waiting. So, good evening, greetings, and hi, Terry, and who do we have? We have Thomas, and we have Spartan Node. Your parents had a sense of humor naming you that. And Jason Jones. Good to see the 5 people that joined us. Oh, there's 11. All right, so welcome to Friday. Is everyone excited about Friday? Chattanooga, Tennessee. Just got the notification. Yeah, I wasn't sure what everybody does to get these and how they pop up and stuff. So there we go. Anyhow, do you guys just sit there and wait for the notification, or you just see it and then you go, crap, I'm not doing anything. I'll just do this, which is probably average view duration, 19 seconds. I'm winning. Okay, see the rock climber fell in Southern Cal? No, but I know a lot of people fall rock climbing. Seems to happen a lot. Yeah, it's pretty common thing out here. We had that guy fell off the Flatiron. It's like, yeah, you would think when you're in an extremely high place that you'd be very careful. What am I? Oh, everything's the opposite on the screen. I was trying to figure out why I didn't see Jax over here, but I saw Jax on the screen over my shoulder, but he's over here.
Well, he did just move.
Anyways, okay. And then I got to deal with me looking, and yeah, I guess, okay, you are a winner. Well, thank you. So it's Friday. I'm tired. Is everybody tired? Just sometimes the week just seems to go, and then you have meetings and you have stuff. And it's just cold. It's you know. They get mad skills and think it will never happen to them. Well, I don't even know if they get mad skills. I think generally, as a rule, people kind of get up in these places and they just don't use their common sense. And accidents happen. I mean, that's why they call them accidents. So someone slips and in the wrong place, that slip has tragic consequences. So, and I've been in plenty of positions where, you know, I've went 10, 15, 20 feet and thought, oh crap. And then just, you know, depending if you go head over heels, bang, you know. So it's just the difference between a 10 or 20 foot fall and another one. Tired and having a beer. Yeah. I had me messing with stupid Christmas lights that didn't work. That's always a pleasure. There's little Christmas lights that don't work. I solved that problem a couple of years ago. I just started throwing them in the trash and buying new ones. Hi, everyone in the host. But, yes, I just started throwing them in the trash. Figured it was much easier than the frustration in trying to replace bulbs and going through this and then having stuff and their sections go down and all that. Figured they last a couple years, so replace a whole bunch. And so I did that. And now I feel very happy that I did because there was no problems with it. It was just basically taking them brand new out of boxes this year. Very easy setup. Boom. Okay, done. So just go buy new ones. It's not like a car. And then you don't have to put them away. After the second year, just throw them in the trash. Okay, so it's been quite the week. It was cold here. It was cool, cold, gray, cloudy. The sun came out today. The last 2 days we've had some sunshine. It was kind of nice, but it was the kind of days that thought you had a doggy. Yes, I have three doggies. I have one over behind me now and two others that are elsewhere. So yes, have several doggies. But and then we had the rain and we got more rain coming, and it's just been it's nice that it's winter. It's kind of refreshing. You get that winter weather. It's just after a while, it's just everything's kind of soggy and wet, and just water is sitting everywhere, and you're just kind of waiting for it to be over. But it's nice, and it's good for the mountains, good for the desert, good for everything. Replenishing and stuff. So it's always good, kind of refreshes things. But yeah, notorious in Arizona, we'll get this weather, and then what generally happens is by Christmas it warms up, and Christmas Day is usually pretty hot, and then it cools down again in January. But I can listen to your voice all day. It's sunny in Colorado Springs, but in the 40s. It's funny. People do listen to my voice quite a bit. They don't hear a thing I say, though. I'll say, Trevor, what did I say? And I don't know, something about. So maybe it works. But yeah, definitely in the cooler climes, wanting to get out more and more. But this week was just not one of those weeks with just kind of the wet weather. I talked to Frank, and we were just kind of like, and I think he went out to a gun show. Went to pick up a gun, and it was raining during that. I would have went out and met him if I would have found out he was going out there, because I was just kind of in one of those moods of like, I don't want to work all day, but there's nothing else to do. So anyhow, I would have met him out there and just hung around with him, walking around, letting him check stuff out. Let's see here. About 20 in Michigan. Well, cold here is relative to every place else, right? Yeah. Was that guy related to Frank that worked in the Boy in the Box? Because the boy was related. Great going to Frank and family. I don't know. I have no idea. He didn't say anything. It was Robert Augustine from Pennsylvania. I don't know. I know his son isn't law enforcement, and Frank's never said anything, I don't think, about any other family members in law enforcement. So, I don't know. I'd have to ask him. Good question, though. I wasn't aware of the gentleman's name. Four Peaks, Sunday morning. Four Peaks is awesome. Be cool up there. I'm going to be dropping into the 20s and teens here in Maine. Yeah, and it'll be starting getting cold out in the desert. The nice thing out here is it'll always warm up. So by noon, it's going to be in the 50s or so. And most of the time, you'll have sunshine. So that's always good. Even the times I've went out there when it's been 10, 15 degrees, it'll warm up eventually. So I know it's supposed to be up in Flagstaff. The low's supposed to be around 11 next week. Yeah, it's supposed to drop. I think they got snow up in Flag, and then it'll drop down into the low teens and get close to some single digits. So, but I should be grabbing up my other two children and getting them out of there for that when the snow clears up. Appreciate all the more on the bark notes up. Yeah, we're just moving along. What is it, usually 2 to 4 chapters?
4.
At a time? Okay, he does 4 chapters at a time, so we will continue that. We also got some other video stuff. It'll get uploaded over a period of time, but it was very interesting stuff featuring Tom Collenborn, Doc Rosencrantz, Bob Ward, Don Hensley. I'm trying to think of it. Well, Greg Davis. Nobody cares about Greg. Jack Sanfelice was in some of the stuff. Yeah, and that stuff had to be from Jack. I think it even said 97, 98. It was around that time period. So that's about 25 years ago. But yeah, Trevor was kind of getting that stuff kind of put together. Some other Don's footage of the Trek, which there was some pretty good. I mean, it's hit and miss. Sometimes the tapes survive and do well. Sometimes they don't. But we're just trying to make sure we grab what we can. So that stuff really, really was kind of cool to see some of that stuff. I'm seeing Bob Ward walking and talking and stuff. So, and hopefully we'll get more and more of that kind of stuff. But we will be getting to that stuff over a period of time, the next couple of months. utilizing it, and sometimes Friday instead of live, that's what we'll do. We'll do the kind of like the archival stuff and post that. Heads up. Oh, I bought a couple of Pendleton wood blankets. So we're into the whole it's cold thing. Okay. Anyways, I love that. I'm talking. I look up and I'm trying to figure out what we're talking about. Nothing here. By the way, I am in shorts and short sleeves, and I rarely ever wear a jacket. It doesn't matter how cold it gets. Trevor will test to that. You can see me out smoking a cigarette in my high tops and a pair of shorts and a short sleeve shirt standing in the snow and asking him, hey, it's getting kind of cold. Will you hurry up? So it doesn't bother me, the temperature and stuff, hot or cold. It's just, I just kind of wing through it. Anyhow, coming up, we got a number of them, Chasing Legends. They'll be a little different. We'll have a little caveat at the beginning of them. I wanted to kind of look at some different stories where certain ideas or thoughts originated from. And it's not always just Lost Dutchman, but various stories. And I was looking at some different stuff and trying to find the documented origination stories for some of the tall tales and myths concerning the superstitions. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea. Woody is actually sick. Thank you for asking. But yes, Woody went and got himself sick. He's got a cold or the flu or something. He's been sick. I just found that out today. Your work is awesome. Well, thank you. And of course you are. Of course I am awesome. I don't know if one goes with the other. And I don't always remember. I'm getting too old to remember what I just said. So, of course I am maybe something I said. But anyways, Friday's the end of a long week. Thank you, if there's a compliment. But they will be something of rabbit hole type stuff. And I won't give too much away, but I hope that everybody kind of understands for what they are. They have interrelated themes that could have something to do with the superstitions or have been thought to do with the superstitions. So we'll have 4 or 5 of those that I've actually got pulled together. I just have to sit and just do them. But I have everything together in my head for those. And then we want to do some of the historical stuff and all that. So, but of course, I'm not going to be pushing too much on some Bark Notes stuff. I might hit one or thing there in shorts. Yeah, of course, I'm always in shorts, yes. Yeah, work does require me to actually wear shoes, though. Otherwise, I'd probably go to work in bare feet. No, but yeah, and that comes from just one of those things. And I know other people have been there where you had to wear pants for so long, and in places it was so hot for so long. And then I'll never forget that I got to wear shorts. And I was like, I'd never wore shorts before probably 2000, 2001, 2002. I just wasn't a person that ever wore shorts. And then I got a pair of shorts and I was like, wow, I can wear a pair of sweatpants, pull them off and be in shorts and do this. And it was absolutely just mind-blowing how much more comfortable it was and how much cooler it was. And I didn't give a crap. I think it's also that thing as you get older, because someone will say, well, you don't look cool. And it's like, I kind of suddenly didn't care if I looked cool. I just wanted to be cool. So that kind of was that. So it's kind of funny. That was like, yeah, I still won't wear flip-flops or sandals, though. That's a no-no. And my children actually can get fined or punished for doing such things, because I go barefoot or wear shoes. Crown King, not that other stuff. I've been up and spent a lot of time in Crown King, but I'm just trying to think overall. Crown King. There's a few stories when we camp up there. It wasn't prospecting or anything else. It was more just getting up there and getting in the cool climate during the spring or fall. And there was the time the mountain lion followed us all over. So we'd leave camp and go out and kind of check over the area. You never know what you'll find, whether it's an old mine or something like that. But it was kind of crazy because every time we came backwards down the trail, we'd find that the mountain lion was leaving us a sign. So he was constantly swinging around behind us, and it was pretty interesting because we knew he was there and never saw him. That's the thing about big cats like that, is you may never see them and they will always be there. Backside of Lake Pleasant, spent a lot of time out the backside of Lake Pleasant. There was a lot of people prospected up there, and I think I told a story or two about that. I've talked about some of that stuff. But yeah, definitely up in the eagle nesting area, back before they filled it up, because you used to be able to drive around the north end all the time. And you used to go up there and then go out and out towards where all the burrows are, because there's tons of burrows up in there in the northeast section. And I used to spend a lot of time four-wheel drive and go out there and just mess around and check. There was a lot of old prospector cabins, too, that are probably underwater. But I used to spend quite a bit of time up in there. That was because it wasn't that far from town, and I could be up there generally in 30, 40 minutes and be out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, got shot at a few times out in that area. Or it was either there or out towards Wickenburg. Might have been out by Wickenburg, out going towards Sayre Springs and Constellation Camp. But we flipped a Jeep once out there, too. We ended up rolling over on the road. It happens. I remember Sky King. Any cryptid stories? No, I kind of got the one of the Mogollon Monster thing, which isn't really a cryptid story. I got kind of the Stick Man. We'll be talking about stuff of other people's stories and things that are related. But generally because, I'm told by all the paranormal and supernatural people, because I don't believe in that stuff. I'm not going to see it, or I can't hear it, or I can't do it because I'm not receptive to it. And I'm like, okay. So, but generally, no. And I just had a discussion with someone today about that. We were talking, and I said it's, a lot of people, you get someone in the mountains, you send them out by themselves the first time. They're probably going to pee themselves and everything, once you kind of like settle in and realize that, you worry about the mountain lions, the rattlesnakes, the scorpions, and that stuff, and you're cautious on that front, but you realize for the most part there is no boogeyman and all this other stuff. It kind of just all vanishes away. So what I'm told is, because we're not blaming. Well, and then there's the old, I used to tell Trevor when he was a little kid, I said, don't worry about the boogeyman, I am the boogeyman. So there you go. But I used to always kind of look at it as, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and it's kind of strange. So the cryptid stuff and all that, no, I've never seen any weird walking things, or the Stick Man and the thing up on the rim with the Mogollon Monster. That's probably it. I don't think I've seen anything else whatsoever. Coming to climb the Flatiron in January. Why does everybody climb the Flatiron? Everybody's got to climb the Flatiron. I don't understand that. Freaking go down First Water. Do the big First Water loop. Go down Bull Pass. Go camp at Charlie Boy. Go this, that, any place else. What is everybody's fascination with the Flatiron? I want to climb up the Flatiron to look down at the city. You can do that from an airplane when you fly into Phoenix. So I don't understand that, because everyone does it. And Trevor was telling me there's guys with these have coined names, and I wanted to jokingly, because I guess they climbed it. What is it the one guy did 500-600 times he's climbed the Flatiron?
I don't know.
It's like 500 times I've climbed the Flatiron. I'm freaking Flatiron John, and hey, I'm Flatiron Ray, and I've climbed it 702 times. So I wanted to start just posting pictures of myself in the mountains and saying things like, hey, just did the Flatiron 901 times today. Hey, just did the Flatiron 1,022 times. Because I don't understand. I don't know. I've been up the Flatiron. It was all about, I'm trying to remember, Center's Gold, that story. And it was, but I go up a different way. But yeah, anybody can do it. It's a long hike. And I don't necessarily for just to go up and take a picture that everybody else is taking a picture at. I'm not going to spend that time. I might have to make it up there once with Trevor, just so Trevor can say he was up on the Flatiron. But to me, it's just like, I don't know what to do. There is a stone circle up there that nobody that goes on the Flatiron can ever see, because you got to go somewhere else to get higher elevation to see it. So, but it's up there. Ron Eagle told me about it. I did see it. So it was there. You can't really see it from Google Earth, I don't think, or any of that stuff. It's kind of weird, but when you're up there and get on one of the peaks, you can actually see it. I don't know if Ron made it or what happened, but that's it. There. Also keep blessings from Ireland. So Ireland's with us. And Robert Lawton has shown up. Do you ever wonder if the LDM legend will die out? Oh, I didn't know.
Someone asked a question about Frank.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Didn't catch it before. I ran into some notes I had made when talking with Jim Hatt on Desert USA. Crazy to see a whole page of a lot of details, debate few have ever known about. I need to go do a Charlie Boy hike. New Year's resolution, buddy. Yeah, Charlie Boy's good. Oh, that's a different Robert. I switched Roberts while we were talking. Charlie Boy's good. Good place to hike out and kind of hike back from. It's kind of cool. A lot of interesting things. Depends. If you can have someone drop you off and pick you up at First Water and drop you off at Peralta, and you can kind of loop out and go out Bull Pass, and you can cover a lot of ground and see a lot of stuff. I mean, that can be a 2-3 day trip where you get a lot of great stuff in. Jim Hatt was always interesting. Jim and I always got along great. Never had a problem with Jim. A lot of people had problems with Jim. I liked Jim to a degree, and we stayed out of each other's way. Jim had his own thoughts and feelings on things. The best way not to be friends with Jim was to try to argue with him or go back and forth with him. Jim and I just respected to stay on our sides of the wall where we were at that and just talk over the wall. But we communicated really well, and I got along fine with Jim. It's funny, though, because every picture I have of Jim when I was around Jim, and he's in the background, he looks like he just ate a lemon. He always looks pissed off. So it's always funny. But he was always pretty friendly to me. And, in fact, there was the Bilbrey stone crosses. He had the replicas made of those. And his replicas he gave me to auction off, or not auction off, we raffled them off at the rendezvous. So Jim wouldn't come out, and I tried to convince him because, he was worried there'd be a fight or something start and stuff. But it's too bad because, I liked Jim, and Jim had some really good stories. And, you mix some, his favorite boy in the world was Sal, probably, though. Sal and Jim did a lot together. Spent a lot of time in the mountains. Are the trails difficult for a person in their 70s to tackle? There's a lot of people in their 70s. Garden Valley, Hieroglyphic Trail. It's all uphill Peralta. So if you're used to just walking and you're ready if you just take your time, Peralta's not bad. Garden Valley's not bad. It's not a bad hike or even back up out to Second Water. There's a lot of trails out there that aren't too bad depending how far you want to go. If you want to go around through Miner's Needle, it's not too bad. There's a little bit of elevation there. It's just sometimes the distance and how much time you have. But there's plenty of times I've seen 80-year-old, 90-year-old guys just walking through there in their shorts and their tank tops with their water bottles, and they're going through. And there's a lot of people that do loops and stuff. But yeah, the Flatiron, you want to be in shape. If you're not in shape, if you're not in physical shape, Flatiron, you're gonna plan on, I don't know, however many hours, 5 hours, 6 hours to do the Flatiron round trip. And then you're going to find yourself kind of coming out of there after 8, 9, 10 hours because you weren't in shape for it. So some of the trails require you to be in shape. I always tell people is, do stuff like the Garden Valley trip, Hieroglyphic Canyon. Kind of take the easy stuff and kind of get a feel for the trails, because the trails are very similar, but then the big difference in them is like elevation. And I've seen a lot of people that were planning to go up to the backside of Weaver's Needle and Needle Canyon, and then once they got a hold of Cardiac, they made it to Barks Canyon, rested up, and came right back out because they realized, wow, that was a lot different than I thought. Randy Wright and I, our favorite trips were always up Cardiac through around Needle Canyon, around Bluff Springs Mountain, and back out through by Miner's Needle. And that can be a long, long day, but to us it was fun. And I know there was times we could make it from the Peralta parking lot to the top of Bluff Springs in about just over 2 hours, which we were flying through there. But hey, it's the shape you're in. Yeah, Cardiac's a pain in everything. It hurts your lungs, it hurts your back, it hurts your knees, it hurts your feet. You're just looking ahead, and Cardiac is, But everyone should do cardiac. If they spent time in the Superstitions, go up cardiac from Peralta one time. Because it teaches you a lesson. It's funny and all the jokes about it. But there was one time Randy Wright and I went up, and I don't know what it was, but I was feeling good that day. I literally, in one clip without pausing, literally trotted right up cardiac. It was like phenomenal to me. But even when I was a kid, that thing there, it was a burner. It was a leg burner. It was a back burner. It was a lung burner. It's a tough one. Is there RV camping allowed? There are RVs. The Lost Dutchman State Park has RV parking and spaces. You can camp at Goldfield Ghost Town has an area. I know people park off various areas on BLM and state trust land with permits along the Peralta Road. There is no parking along First Water Road. They've pretty much put a fence along that road, and that can't happen no more. But there's plenty of areas in and around town and stuff. That's where Ron had blood flowing out his nose. We stopped and waited it out, but not good full heart attack in the mouth. Yeah, it builds your pressure up, man. So definitely cardiac. And we called it Heart Attack Hill, Cardiac Hill, so many things. Going up Devil's Slide can be like that too. The Dons used to use ropes, so people could be assisted going up Devil's Slide. But Devil's Slide's a bit like that too. And usually when you're back in there going to Geronimo's Cave or up or over the ridge there, it's off trail. It's all just by cairns and route finding. But once you get to Devil's Slide, you usually have a pack because you're back in there and going to stay the night. And the biggest problem is going up that thing with a pack is not a lot of fun. So, but you go that way because that's a lot easier than spending the entire day on the Peralta Trail getting up to Fremont Saddle with a full pack. So you go up Devil's Slide. But yeah, back in my younger days, I would not do this today. But my younger days, I remember a few times where there was some other people with us. I ended up with my pack and then pulling someone else's pack up, having it on one arm and dragging it along as I went up Devil's Slide. So it showed just, I was in incredible shape at that point, which would have been probably in the late 70s, around 78, 79, 80, 81. And it wasn't built like a brick shit house. I just had that endurance and I was a long distance runner at that time, but I had that endurance for going up to that stuff and all that. So, I love listening to him and his stories. I don't know who he is.
Did you ever answer, do you wonder if the LDM legend will die out?
Yeah, we never got back to that. Yeah, we kind of kept going on that. I don't think it will. I think it'll always be there because Apache Junction, it's kind of one of those things that's ingrained to it because you have the Lost Dutchman Park. They're building another Peralta State Park.
Dutchman Days Parade.
You have the Dutchman Days Parade, the museum, Goldfield Ghost Town. So it's going to be hard for it to completely die since it's economic to the town. And the town's not going to disappear. So it's not a fringe town that would just kind of not be able to kind of stick around. So I think it's always, when we did the TV show, it boosted the economy and it did them a lot of favors. It was good for everything, brings a lot of tourism in. But the number 2 tourist spot in Arizona after the Grand Canyon is the Superstition Mountain region. So people do visit there a lot. And, a lot of people think, oh, it's Tombstone, it's Prescott, it's this, it's that. No, it's actually the Superstitions. So, but there's so much to do there. So long as, it would be almost incredible for Apache Junction to fall apart and the town to disappear because the town is built on residence. It's not built on any type of business or, there's not a semiconductor industry there or, a technical school or there's nothing really there economically other than that. And it's funny because Prescott's very similar. Prescott is the rodeo. The rodeo is a huge part of Prescott. And it has its kind of like quaintness and people, but it's generally a place where people live and then people visit and the tourism aspect. So, Yeah, I don't think it would die just because of that, because there's always going to be people, because of the museum in those places, tortilla flats, and they're always going to have books on a shelf, and someone's going to pick up a book. So that's just kind of like something I don't think can die, as long as it's there. If it was out of the way, and let's say Apache Junction was kind of isolated off the beaten path, a little more like a Superior, independent on the mining industry and stuff, I can see that. But its industry is the Lost Dutchman mine, so it'll stick around. And I don't think there's nothing they have economically that I think is ever going to drive that town differently. So it's, you either just want to live there, or you're interested in the Lost Dutchman mine, or you're a tourist. And yeah, so that being said and done, it will always be there and recirculate and stuff. And let's face it, that town's been kind of probably since the 50s. Definitely Apache Junction's built up for the last 70 years off that. So there was obviously no Apache Junction when it started. Well, it was Apache Junction. It was just the junction of the highways. So, but it's outlasted and outsurvived. So it's figuratively there because of the Lost Dutchman. And for the Lost Dutchman to go away, it would be the town. It would have to go away. And for the town to go away, literally the mountains would have to. Unless we, maybe, hey, the super volcanoes return. And if the return of the super volcanoes sounds like a song or a bad movie, but the return of the super volcanoes would be the end of all that. Of course, it'd be the end of Phoenix and pretty much me, because I don't think, even as far as I am from them, I think if one of those super volcanoes really went off, I think you're pretty much done within, 50, 60 miles? We're not talking a volcano, a super volcano. I think it's pretty much, yeah. So would be over and said and done. But I think we'd have a little, I don't know which ones, I don't know, but it's hard to believe this, but 25 million years ago, none of us were around. Maybe Woody was around, but it's hard to believe. I don't think there was anything existing here for a long time after those super volcanoes, because I'm pretty sure it was just like a wasteland. Because what did they say it was like 25 nuclear bombs hit, and you just imagine, boom.
Because the volcano erupts and then there's ash in the sky, so it's covering the sky.
So,
there's no
and that's another thing I was going to do, and I made a note for myself this week, is I wanted to kind of explore and talk, not so much to geologists, but some of the people that kind of do the fault lines and stuff in Arizona. Find anyone who's ever done it. I've never found any of the stuff that measures seismic activity or stuff in the superstitions. And I know there is seismic activity, 3 calderas. So, but I've always wanted to find someone that was their area of interest in college, or they got their, their master's or their PhD, or they did some papers on it. Because I always wanted to kind of talk to them and kind of look at it as like, okay, what is your thoughts and your feelings, and kind of give me more of a rundown. I've had a couple geologists do a nice job and made me much smarter for it, but I always wanted to look at that because the calderas kind of almost overlap to some degree and all. And I'm always, I think we all would do that, is you look at Google Earth and you try to picture where they are. I know where they're at, but it's hard to place them physically, just eyeballing them. I can show you the fault I found. Yeah, and I always wanted, I know where the faults are because I got the geological surveys from a number of different people of where a lot of these faults lie. And you can see the faults in the mountains with the rock and the cross sections. But there are underlying ones deep below the earth, and I know those exist. And I just wonder if someone's ever has any equipment or activity out there kind of doing that. So it's hard to find on Google Earth. But yes, I'm very aware. And I always thought it'd be cool to have an overlay that I could do that would show kind of just, has an overlay with mines, and then you could do a digital one where you could do like, how maps do the streets and stuff, but I could put all the known mining sites and the old camps, and you could put things on and off, and then when something would bring in the basically the fault lines and so forth, and then the caldera sections, and you'd be able to look at it from different periods of time and stuff, and where people have been and different things. That would be kind of interesting. I don't have the patience or technical expertise. So, Trevor, that's all on you for next week. So, yeah, we can set that up.
It might take a little longer than a week.
As a rock hound, you can find the fault line with volcanic activity. Yeah, so But the fault line I'm talking about is like the St. Andreas type fault. There's a big fault line under there, and I can't remember what it's referred to. And I have all the stuff because, again, I went and talked to a geologist, and I wanted some material because I was looking at that as overlaid at some areas, particularly we were in, and trying to understand if I could correlate the stuff I was finding in the mountains with where those lines were, which one thing didn't really mean much to the other because they're super volcanoes and everything blew up so bad that everything just went everywhere. It's always a weird thing when you feel something licking you next to you and you don't expect it. You're a good boy, though. You're a good boy. Did you get locked in here with us? Yes? Okay. You can't be on camera because you're down there too low. Yes. All right, so that's that. So we kind of went through the calderas and all that stuff. But it's been a very quiet week. The next videos, like I said, should kind of... They're either going to draw your interest or but you're going to kind of learn something about it. Because what I wanted to do for a little while here now is to take a shot. I keep picking that up to drink it, and I don't. To kind of work something out for everyone. It was like when someone asked me a question about something, I wanted to not just be more knowledgeable. I wanted to be able to give them an idea of kind of an origination of where some of those ideas or stories came from and why. Because people will look and look and look and not find anything and say, I don't know. So I wanted to do that. I will touch on those 4 or 5 stories, and then I wanted to touch on the series. And I think I've kind of told people, but I might touch on Cake His Ears books, which really could only take me about 3.5 minutes because get them if you want them, but they're written for the most part, I would say, between a 10 and 15-year-old kid, and they don't accurately portray anything to do with the mountains. And if you even just look at a map, you'll realize they don't have anything to do with the mountains. Here we go. Okay, it's harder to find the volcanic flow that went... But it wasn't so much volcanic flow because they collapsed and everything just blew up. Like it literally vomited at everything, which is cool. I wonder if Sean Wally has ever studied the areas of geology as a great V. I don't know. A lot of people seem very disinterested in it from that field. There was one individual, and I can't remember his name offhand, who was very interested because he said... all the studies there, the government studies and everything, are all incomplete. They've never completed anything. He says a lot of the stuff that you can find online in the government records and stuff, they never fully completed everything. And he says it's really crazy. And he said, he was in his 60s or 70s. And he said he was beyond that. But he said nobody's ever picked that up. It's just, if for some reason, meteor crater, sunset crater, things like that really interest people. But the superstitions don't. And he said... But it's a crazy place, especially with the silver at the Silver King, and then the gold in Goldfield, and the bulldog and the mammoth and all that kind of stuff. He said it's very interesting. There's not too many places at all like it. And he said it has its hot springs. It has so many different things. He said he was very surprised that no one completed that or no one ever wrote a book geologically on it. And there is a few books that cover it, but it's just like a short chapter. Let's see. Richard Friend. Wayne, how do your guitars hold up in the heat and weather? My dad lives out in Apache Junction. Makes me feel a little connected to all you guys' adventures. That's cool. The guitars hold up well because generally they live inside on the wall and in cases out of the sun. Yeah, they wouldn't last very well. A solid body guitar, in the neck, I don't know. The heat wouldn't be too bad. The cold weather is usually bad, and it's usually the hot and cold extremes. But no, I've never had a problem. Never saw an issue with any of them because of the hot or cold. I wouldn't leave one laying out in the sun in the middle of summer, and even during the winter here, I wouldn't leave one laying out. I do have a couple in the garage. One's pulled apart because it's actually being... Someday I'm hoping to put it back together. I was working on it. And then the other one's an acoustic, but the strings are loose on it, and it's in a case. But it should be fine. It's in a cool, dry environment. Do the snakes still come out in the weather? The snakes are there 365 days a year. We have that thing on rattlesnakes. We have a video on Chasing Legends about rattlesnakes. Always good to watch it. Learn about snakes. Snakes come out 365 days a year. It may not be out in the snow. I don't know. So I'm sure somewhere someone's running into a rattlesnake in the snow. But snakes will come out at any given time when they're hungry or they feel the need to. And because of that, you should always be aware where you're putting your hands and things you're doing. Because if you aren't, that's how people get bit. It just is what it is. And they don't disappear or go away. It's just like scorpions. They're there all the time. So you just have to kind of deal with that. So yeah, all this weather through the winter. I've actually run into, I've run into, most of the time during the summer, it's in the early evening and early mornings because that's when you can see them. But the snakes come out in the summer a lot during the night, but they will be out during the day. And I've seen snakes when it's 110 degrees laying out on a rock, which is crazy to me. And I've seen them out there. It's a 30, 40 degree day, and I've seen a snake, going down the path. And so I don't understand anything other than the fact that I'm just aware that snakes can be out at all times, especially rattlesnakes. It's hard to find sites that have not been damaged by mankind. Oh, there's still plenty, but the reason you don't find those spots is because nobody tells you where they are. Generally, when I find something really cool like that, there's a couple people I'll share with, and then there's kind of a little bit of a discussion. There's a number of ruins and sites in the Superstitions that I doubt very few people have been to, and the idea is generally when we can tell, like, maybe some pot shard guys have been through there or something, and then we just realize if we make it so more people come out here, just be less and less, to enjoy. And those are sometimes far from a parking lot or anything, but still people will make it out there and take stuff. So I generally, as a rule, when I find stuff that's really super cool, it's shared with very few people. And I won't even say the names of the people I'll talk to, but there's a few people that share those things too. And it's just kind of like, a lot of times if I know one of those people's in that area, I'll say, hey, by the way, just so they'll check on it and make sure how things are. And okay, all right, just wondering if the heat affects the necks. No, I made it. Sorry, I'm in late. Got 5 feet of snow up here. That's a lot of snow. Speaking of music, I got my little niece who turned 4 last week a stag ukulele and a harmonica, which she was so excited and learning to play. That's always cool. I think when you're young, if nobody gives you a lesson and you just mess around with it, you'll become a better musician because you learn to fall kind of for the whole music thing and having fun with it. And then later you learn something about it and you actually apply it. And then there's a kind of a, muscle memory to messing around with it when you're younger. I always think that applied to me is I don't think I could do crap. But when I got older and then I suddenly wanted to do something, there were a lot of things that just naturally kind of worked for me. So it's always good, but yeah, never make it a chore. Anytime somebody makes it a chore, you take all the fun out of it, unfortunately. Good for the niece. I just moved here from Seattle, and it's very different weather. And yeah, have you ever been visited? I've been in Seattle. How's the rain? Because that's what you'll be, a lot of rain. I had a friend from Seattle, and I asked him what was it like living in Seattle, growing up in Seattle, and he just went, depressing. He said, I moved to Arizona because I don't care about the heat. I just didn't want to see it ever rain again. So he hated it. I know there's people probably love it up there, but he hated it. So we have snow here in Ireland at the Monument Moment North. Looked at it was snowing, very cool, very cold. Yeah, we'll get snow every few years. We'll get a little snow in town. The mountains around us. Probably there'll be a winter storm will blow through the Superstitions. The mountains around the valley will get kind of white capped. But the thing about Arizona that's great, if I want to see 4, 5, 6 feet of snow, I can drive an hour and a half up north, and then I'll be in 4, 5, 6 feet of snow. If you want out of the snow an hour and a half south, you can be out in the Sonoran Desert and out of it all. So that is a cool thing. Flagstaff gets as much snow as any place in the lower 48. But you can actually, it doesn't take much to get away from it. And Prescott's a little in between. It's a little wetter, not quite as snow-packed, but definitely Flag, Show Low, Pine Top, Pine, those areas, getting up into Taylor. Some of those areas can get some real heavy snowfalls. What's your wildest moment you ever had inside a bar? Left turn. God, I don't even know because it's been so long and Trevor's here. I guess I'd have to really think about that stuff because there's plenty of stupid things I've done. I remember thinking I could fly once. Tequila can make you do weird stuff. And I think I tried to jump through a plate glass window once. I hit it like a bug. God, wildest moment you ever had inside a bar. I wasn't a bar guy, though. I wasn't really a bar guy. Usually, most of the stupidity I would commit or do was once I was away from the bar. Yeah, I don't think in the bar I was too bad. I'm trying to even think if there was ever really I know there was a couple people I knew that got into bar fights, but I never even got in a bar fight. No, like that. I got plenty drunk when I was young, but yeah, it was just never. Yeah, I can just remember that one. I was like standing there, and I didn't say anything anyway. I just thought I could fly or something, and I just jumped through the air and hit that window, and that was it. And that I basically remember more from someone telling me, but most of the time, any crazy story or something, it was either out in the desert, kegers, that kind of stuff out here, which is where everybody gets kegs of beer, and then they just put them in trucks, and then we would all go out in the desert, turn up music, have big bonfires, and drink out there the whole time. So the bar scene here, particularly when I was in the bar, I was working with a band or playing in a band or something. Wasn't necessarily I was drinking and just hanging out and stuff. Oh, there is one. Okay, I'll share this one. It wasn't me particularly, but I do remember there was a thing. There was a thing at Rockers, a place called Rockers, down by Indian School, Grand Avenue, and Rock and Roll Ricky and his House of Shame. And we were down there, and there was a young new band, had an album out. I really hadn't heard the album. I'd heard one of the songs, I think, on the radio. It's called Talk Dirty to Me. It was a band called Poison. It was a bunch of ugly dudes that wore a lot of girl makeup. And they came in, and they seemed okay. I don't know. I didn't think much of one way or the other. There's, especially with a lot of those heavy metal bands in the early 80s. It was such a dime a dozen. There was so many bands. And they came out, and there was a show we were doing, and I ran sound for the next night. But we were there, and it was supposed to be a big deal there because they're an up-and-coming band out of L.A. And they played a show, and then they had some pyro or something they ran. And they weren't supposed to, and there was a little back and forth, a little problem. And so they came out, and I think they came out like in their underwear to play like an encore, and they came out kind of as a big FU to the bar. And they came back out to play, and the guy that was the stage manager there, I can't remember what his name was, but he looked like Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath. He had kind of curly, really dark hair and a big mustache. He got up on the stage, and he punched Bret Michaels. I'm watching this go down. He punched Bret Michaels, and then C.C. DeVille ran across with his guitar and hit him in the head, and then all hell broke loose. And then the crowd, for some reason, wasn't into them. I think they were having a good time, but once, it was a tight group there, so I think a lot of the people, suddenly things weren't going well. And then everybody was jumping on the stage, and then the guys in Poison started grabbing girls and keeping them in front of them, and they worked their way out the back door. There was a back door there where they loaded equipment and stuff, but they got themselves out of there, the parking lot, and then there was a huge problem because their equipment was still inside, and they hadn't been paid, and then they still wanted them to play again, or some crap to go on. There was some kind of issue, and they had to kind of make up and be nice. But I came in the next day, the next morning, and the place was trash. Because literally, after all that happened, literally they left, and everybody in the place started shutting down. Everybody started leaving, and the whole place was chaotic. So I ended up with their set lists and all their stuff. I just started picking up stuff. And what we were doing, we didn't have trash bags or trash cans, so I was picking up stuff and throwing it in like a milk crate or something and helping clean up the next morning. And then I set the stuff aside, and then I thought, well, shit, maybe there'll be somebody someday. So I took all that crap and took it out and threw it in my car. And it was their set list and a bunch of stuff of theirs, picks and all kinds of stuff. But I ended up with all that crap. It's somewhere in a box or a shelf somewhere. But it was really funny. Then years later, I'd run into CC, because CC was pretty funny. He was a nutty guy. Didn't really know any of the other guys. And then my brother-in-law ran into them at Olive Garden and was talking to them, and they were very cool with him, so I'm very happy with that. And then they gave them some backstage passes. And we got to the show, and it was one of those shows that has multiple bands. It was like Poison, I don't know who else, probably like a Motley Crue and Great White and that kind of stuff. But it was like 4 or 5 bands. And they were going to come out and play. And I think actually Great White was on that. LA Guns. I'm trying to remember. Rat, which was still around. But all these bands were on this bill, and I was sitting there, and I had good seats, and I was fine. And my brother-in-law was backstage, and CC was just winding him up and writing out messages on things, on different stuff from backstage, flyers or this or that and stuff. So he was doing all these notes, and then sent my brother-in-law out to actually get me the message, because he wanted me to come backstage. And I'm like, I have no interest in this. I have no interest in coming back there at this time. So it was like back and forth. Like, instead of watching the concert, my brother-in-law is going back and forth running the show. And I got some of that stuff. And I told him finally, just tell Cece to shut up and just go enjoy yourself and whatnot. But he wasn't a drinker or anything like into that stuff. He was just so excited being backstage. And then, of course, to him, it was really cool that Cece seemed to know me. And Cece was just, I could tell, messing with him the whole time, which was kind of funny. Cool story to have. But, so that was that, and it was cool. But I was kind of like, yeah, I remember you guys from when kind of things were messed up and stuff, and we're all good now. I don't need to go back there. I don't need to, that was never my thing to hang out back there like that and stuff. Did plenty of that when I was younger, and there's no good comes to that kind of stuff. He's a funny guy. CC is a funny guy. He's one of those guys that he talks, he has that kind of higher pitched voice and that accent, and then he just keeps talking really fast, and he just keeps making jokes and cracking up. And I can see why the band had enough of him when the drugs and alcohol got out of control, because he's one of those guys that after a while you just want to get away from him. You probably go and shut a door and then try to go out the other door and leave him waiting for you, because he's a really nice guy and a funny guy, but there is a point too where it overloads you. But he was very high energy, very funny guy. So the times I met him and stuff. So there you go. That's probably the craziest bar story I got, was that stuff happened. Oh, there was that one, and then the one where a guy was standing there, and I remember we were coming in the back door. I can't remember what the bar was called. It was on Van Buren across from the Mason Jar. I can never remember what the name of that bar was. But it had a weird backstage entrance. You had to go down like this weird corridor that twisted and turned. And I remember we got back in there, and there was this guy, and he's standing there, and my buddy said, "Hey, check it out, Ted Nugent." And then he went over and introduced himself and said, "How you doing, Mr. Nugent?" We shaking the guy's hand and stuff. And they had a conversation, and he was like so excited that he met Ted Nugent. I was thinking, I don't think Ted Nugent plays in the bar here on Van Buren. I mean, I don't think so, but whatever. And Nugent doesn't hang out in bars. But anyways, he turned to leave, and the guy came over. We were sitting there, and the guy said, "Who does your friend think I am, Ted Nugent?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Holy crap, man, I'm Jim Dandy of Black Oak, Arkansas." It was Jim Dandy. So it was pretty funny. So he was a very cool, nice guy. Especially being confused with Ted Nugent. Okay, so there we go. I know I'm missing stuff here and all. It was the one and only Oregon Jam in the fairgrounds. Black Sabbath, Molly Hatchet, Blue Oyster Cult, that Black and Blue tour. I remember that. We had one here in Arizona, and it was at the, I think it was at the baseball stadium, and it rained out, and BOC had to come back later, I think, or Black Sabbath. One of the bands couldn't do something happened, and we got like a rain ticket after we watched most of the show, and then they came back. So I think we saw Black Sabbath and Molly Hatchet, and BOC was closing that night, and they did not get to close. And then they came back, and I'm trying to remember who they brought with them. But they came back, and we got a free concert out of that. But that was, yes. That was the Black and Blue tour, and then they did a film about it and stuff. That was actually two bands that are very, very different, but it was kind of a cool show. Well, three bands that are very, very different, but that was a pretty cool. Grandfather, I meant not granddaughter. Da, 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 da. But it was great. Super talented. So there we go. Yeah, we're going in that music thing again. We've done that several times, but we've almost put our hour in, which is like we're almost done here. So I want to thank everybody though for picking up on the Chasing Legends, catching them on Mondays. Trevor says he thinks he's just pulling together the episode stuff, right? 10, 12, whatever you think you got.
Yeah.
So he's pulling that together, and then we'll be moving onward and forward again with all that stuff. So that will be interesting to get into that new ground, and then kind of some of the stuff, and it'll cover a couple of years worth of stuff. But and just the big shame is like when you have a number of different things up in the air, you just don't want to put it all out there and then kind of compromise your position on certain things. But we've had mindset changes on certain things, what we were thinking or how we felt. Tonight is pizza. Probably Ray's Pizza is what I was told. So I figured just have something delivered. I figured just order it and have it delivered while I'm sitting here. And then when I hear the ringing of the doorbell, I'll know it's time to wrap up here. But no, so I get to go run out and pick up pizza. Are you prioritizing Lost Dutchman versus Golden General? Well, and that's a kind of a diverse thing, is because if I'm out with Frank's always looking for gold. But I think it's like one of those, when you're in those partnerships where he's thinking of gold and thinking in terms as a prospector. I'm thinking in terms as a historian in the Lost Dutchman. So you're trying to see what things could intermix or what possibly we could be onto. So it's kind of like it multi-layers. That's why it's good to have 2 or 3 people that get along, that have different ideas. Because the fact that Frank and I don't see eye to eye, Frank's general knowledge on the Lost Dutchman is very general. That wasn't his and Tom's relationship, wasn't the Dutchman. It was, their relationship was a friendship, a good friendship. But it opens things that where Frank can turn to me and I can tell him about things about the Lost Dutchman or the Superstitions and various different things, knowing the history that I know and everything. So that's important because it allows us both to have our own area and field and bounce ideas off of. So having 2 or 3 people that have different views, it's kind of like when I look at Woody kind of has a certain prospecting kind of like way of direction he'll navigate. Frank might be metal detecting and kind of see things or have a particular way. And then I'm just kind of all over the place looking at things in general. And I'll always find things because of that. So, but it coincides because sometimes it's like I'm out and what they're looking for, they may miss what could draw them to what they're actually looking for. And I might be the one that picks it up because I'm moving high ground, low ground, looking at things, looking at different signs, different things than they are. So it's having different people focused on different things is really important. If one person goes out and is focused on one thing in the history and stuff, it's very difficult. And remember, the actual clues are very, very narrow and they're very few and far between. So when you come to like, there's a rock face like a man and stuff. I talked to someone about that today. And I said, look at the north-south trending canyon. There's no dump and this and that in the pit, and it's in an Ohio Royal. There's certain things that are necessary to listen to. Okay, 3 red hills, 3 red spots. Well, you're looking for something reddish and an iron content nearby or something. But we don't have, nowhere is there specifically in German verbatim or Julia Thomas or Reinhard Petrasch. The Bark Notes is the only place we have kind of indirectly through Jim Bark what they were talking about. And that's what they told Jim Bark and Sim Zeeley. So what they're telling you is pretty much what you have. Other than that, you next are going to third-hand, fourth-hand stories of people like Herman Petrasch, who's telling you, oh, okay, this is what Julia and Reinhardt told me, which we've already talked many times here about how storytellers will alter and change, and they know, and maybe you just don't want people to know certain things. So this makes the LDM so hard to find. Well, it's just not a normal thing. But most treasure stories and lost mine stories, if you get back to the origination story, you find there's a lot less meat on the bone. And what happens is we run into the worst thing possible is people add meat to the bone, and you end up with a big old fat turkey when you just had a little skinny like quail to start with. And that's bigger problem than anything else, I would think, is, and once something's in your head, it's hard to get it out. When someone goes out there and bullshits and tells people stories about their time in the mountains or their life history and these famous people they talk to and all this stuff, and they build up this bullshit over 20, 30 years, your problem is that's what you kind of like suddenly got in your head, and then you're having to separate these slivers out of everything else in your head. So I really hate that when people kind of like marginalize the whole superstition story with a lot of lies and bullshit. But it is what it is. I mean, that's part of what's been happening for 100 some odd years. What is the most lucrative mineral metal to search for in the Sonoran? Like turquoise, silver, arrowheads. Well, arrowheads you can't take unless you're on private property. Meteorites, there's meteorite sites. The most lucrative would probably be something like silver or gold. It also depends, because there's a lot of areas that, it depends what people are looking for. Tungsten and silica, and there's a lot of different things. And it depends what use you have for it and what you're looking to do with it. There's some people that claim they just relic hunt. I don't think there's enough relics to really make that much of a difference. And especially since the way the laws are set up, it's just kind of like, it's hard. So, and I know some people right now that are working on a present site that the bureaucracy, the red tape of just having something very small scale in an area where they're recovering gold, and they've had some good gold recovery, but dealing with the other things, it's very difficult for them. And then there's the different partnerships and different groups and their own partnership and the difficulties in it. And I wanted to have them do a video with us or something, or talk about it a little, but they don't want to because they think it'll just stir up more problems. I'm not hoping that they kind of lose out, but if they end up pulling out of the situation they're in and decide to get out of it, I'd like them to talk about it a little. It's just kind of the difficulties. Jack Sanfelice has done it before too. At the Rendezvous talked about it, and it's a good thing for people to hear, is like how difficult it can be. But I'd say in the Sonoran Desert, silver, copper, but copper, you need to really have quite the outfit for it. But copper, silver, turquoise a little harder to find, but and it depends what you're looking for, man. I mean, if it's azurite and malachite and those type of things for jewelry. Apache tears, the obsidian, because obsidian's pretty frequent out here. It just depends what you're looking for and what you think you can kind of get out of it, or what you can build up. There's people that I've been to their houses and they just got tons of stuff, but they just never did anything with it. Have you been to Childs? I don't know what this means. Do you? Childs. Have you been to Childs? Thank you for the Christmas wishes, McCracken. And have a good one in Ireland. I'm just not sure what Child's. Chili? Everybody is. Yeah, Chili's like the restaurant, Chili like the country. Child's. I'm going to be wrapping up, so I was kind of hoping... Hanging backstage with Jason Bonham at Phoenix Outdoor. 400, Cheap Trick. Unfortunately, a man died of a heat stroke. Okay, well, that sucks. Yeah, he was playing with Foreigner at that point, wasn't he? Cheap Trick's always a good band to watch live, too. They're like a bar band that made it big. Fun band. Fun band to watch. They're one of those bands you always have a good time. And Cheap Trick's one of those weird bands. Even if there's certain bands you just know most of the songs, even if you're not a fan of them. You've heard so many different pieces and bits and pieces, and they do a lot of covers. So they're a fun band. They're a fun bar band that can play a big stadium or a small place. So, and they're from Rockford, Illinois. Rockford, the band from Rockford. So there you go. I'm going to wrap it up because I want pizza, and I went another 7-8 minutes, and I still don't know what Child's is. Chills. Have you ever been to Child's? No, okay, we don't know. And he obviously left. So, it's up by Roosevelt Lake by the Verde River. I heard there was good catfish. Is that Childs? Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. Have you been to Childs? Childs. I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell. I've never spent much time up at Roosevelt. I've driven through there and stuff. I'm usually west of the dam, kind of down in the Superstitions area. So, what? It must be a place. Yes, I know. I can understand that now, Trevor. Thank you, Mr. Obvious. All right. Stay safe. Stay forever. Great weekend, you, Wayne and Trevor. Everyone here tonight. Da-da-da-da-da. Catfish the size of Caprice Classics. I will catch catfish. I will give them to you because I'm not a catfish guy. I like trout, but I'm not a catfish. I never was a catfish guy. I always gave the catfish away to somebody. So there you go. All right. Thank you, everybody, though, for joining us. Catch us again on Monday for when we start going down some rabbit holes, and I think everybody will find it interesting what our discussions will be, and when they'll understand all of this, where I'm touching legends and myths and stuff and trying to kind of reconcile why we hear some of the things we do, but we never have anything tangible or a book or anything we can guide people on. So it'll be very cool. Always go down, hit our subscribe thing, hit the notification bell. All of you guys have done that, so there's no reason for me to really even say it, is there? So there we go. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to enjoy my pizza. I'm going to get myself together and get out there and get that. So remember, until the next time, until Monday, you see me and I say the same old thing, same old way, same old time. Remember, I'm Wayne Tuttle. Not a single one of you are. Even if you change your name to Wayne Tuttle, you won't be Wayne Tuttle like I am Wayne Tuttle. And I hope everybody has a great weekend, safe weekend, and we'll catch you the next time. And this was Chasing Legends or Legendless. I need a tagline. We're going to have to write something down, tape it to the monitor so I can say it. It's up to you. Bumper music at the beginning and at the end, away from me, an outro.
Bumper music.
Yeah, we need an outro at the end, like Freeway Jam, Jeff Beck, and Jan Hammer. Dun, 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 dun. You know, we need something. Yeah. So I can just kind of bring it in and kind of fade myself out of here rather than just squawking around as I keep talking. Never ending, is it? No, it isn't. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will catch you again next week. All right, enjoy, be safe, have a great weekend, take care, and good night.